This show would not be produced without InstantlyRelevant.com. My teams at InstantlyRelevant.com do an excellent job at creating the content, the social media post, managing the whole process. The systems we've built to help grow a business without brand-wrecking spam have been critical, and they're just so integrated into what we do here at Never Been Promoted. So if you have the same needs of growing a business online, through social media, through web, through email, check out InstantlyRelevant.com and see if they can help you as well.
Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast with Thomas Helfrich. Get ready for a thrilling adventure as we uncover entrepreneurial journeys and life-changing business insights every week. And now your host, Thomas.
Welcome back. It is the Never Been Promoted podcast. Hi, I'm Thomas Helfrich. I'm your host. And if this is your first time visiting, you rock. You get immediately 10 dad points. I'll explain that at the end of the podcast, what you can do with those. If you are returning, you know those dad points are very valuable, but you probably don't care at this point because you know that they're dad points. And like your kids, as you're going through life, you don't know how to use them. I haven't figured it out either. That's not even the point of today's show or any other shows. The shows are really more about entrepreneurs helping other entrepreneurs be better at entrepreneurship and at life. And we do this through the journey of successful, sometimes unsuccessful entrepreneurs as well. Today we have a successful one, and we're going to be speaking with her here shortly. She is she's very personable in character, and she loves Monet. But let's go ahead and meet her. And if you have any questions along as a listener here, you can't ask because it's a podcast, and that's the humor of the day to start it up. So nice to hear from everybody. Thank you for listening. Let's meet our guest, Shannon. Why don't you go ahead and say hello, but also tell us a little about yourself.
My name is Shannon Kuykendall, and I am the founder of LinkedIn. Fun fact about me, I visited 22 countries in 24 months between 2017 and 2019. I am a LinkedIn expert, and I help my clients create content that stands out on LinkedIn, as well as help them generate leads through a system of sending messages. I also teach them how to write proper messages so that they don't spam people in the DMs.
You and I have a lot to talk about. As an agency owner that does a similar work, I couldn't agree more. Brand wrecking spam. There's so few companies out there, right, that do what we're doing, which is, hey, be thoughtful, be authentic. It's okay to use some automation maybe, but don't spam the world without thinking. And so thank you so much for joining. As in your own journey, maybe set up how you got to founding your company. Like what were the triggers? Maybe what was the, go F it moment in your life? What were the moments that got you to become an entrepreneur?
So I always knew, I've always known from a very young age that I wanted to do something on my own, but, I didn't have the words. I didn't know what that was. And so it was the last job I ever had. I was the sales assistant to a sales team that would sell dental software for new teeth. I hated the job. I hated my manager. It was below me because I am a very technical person. I build websites. I'm a network administrator. That's what I went to school for. And I took a job that was less than what I deserved simply because I wanted to work in the same city that I lived. So I allowed myself to get fired after a year. And then I filed for unemployment like everybody else and figured out what I was going to do next. A gentleman found me, because you have to look for work when you're on unemployment. A gentleman found me, said, hey, I've got this gig. I'd like you to do it, but you're going to have to be in Beaverton. And I was like, I don't want to commute. He said, you only need to be in Beaverton for a week. And Beaverton's about a 30-minute drive from me. So to commute that, it would be an hour. But anyway, so he said, you could work from home the rest of the time. And I was like, wow, that's fantastic. So I did that for about 6 months, but it was only about 15 hours a week and I needed more. And so I built my own website, went on a place called Upwork and Guru, and got my first clients. And then that is how my virtual assistant business was born in 2005.
That's fantastic. You let yourself get fired. Let's back that train up just a bit. I know trains don't go backwards, but we're going to take that train just back to the other stop that you mentioned. Did you look at your, I'm just going to ask it more broadly. What do you mean by that?
That I allowed myself to get fired. So I started actively looking for a new job in the town that I lived in. And I had a job interview one morning. And so I called my boss and I said, hey, I'm not coming in. I'm going to a job interview. And the next day I came in, which was really kind of cool because it turned out they fired my manager, who was a total douchebag. Sorry, hopefully I can say that on here.
You can say that here.
And then fired me the next day when I came in.
That's I like that. And so the other way you could let yourself be fired, and I was thinking it less direct than you had done it. And as an entrepreneur, if you in those listening, you know this, that you have more to give, and you don't. And the problem with, I think, sometimes working for other people is that the capacity in the role is not there for you to be everything you think you can be. Now, there's sometimes some false sense of importance or overstating your own capabilities. But if you have this burning desire to give more, do more, and you haven't given enough, or you haven't found yourself enough to go do it, this is one of the things that triggers it. But when you do find the path, the side hustle, whatever you have going on, allowing yourself to be fired is a great way to say it. I looked at it as have an angel investor into your startup that has no equity.
I wish.
So
that was not the case.
What I may or may not have done, I'm not sure what the statute of limitations are on this, so I will not say what role it was for. But there have been several that I have certainly done the bare minimum to not get fired, with the idea that 99% of my time was going to build my company. And I'm saying that's not the best path possibly for some people, but that's allowing yourself to be fired in a way but you better be committed to what you're going to go do, because you become unhireable.
Absolutely. I don't think that's a bad way. It probably took another 10 years to figure out that I needed to stop trading time for money.
That's right.
So,
yeah. And so there are, so if you're an entrepreneur and you own your business, how do you avoid someone doing this to you? So, and I'll give this advice back, is that in my own company, we set up the idea of a 4-day work week, which means relative to market, I want you to take a full day off to go do things that aren't here. You can do side hustles. You can catch up on work if you really need to. You can go drink yourself silly, whatever it is. The idea is that we're not tracking time. I tried to say it's outcome. This role is worth this. And if you could do it in an hour or it takes you 40, I don't care. Just get it done in a way that serves the customer best. And then if you want to do your own side hustle things that aren't competitive or interact or make it difficult for you to deliver, I don't care. Go do it. Get it done. Have a life.
I love that.
And
I think more people.
Completely different way of thinking. And yes. So I'm trying to set it up where people don't need to quit. They have the role they need and they enjoy it. And if that time slot then becomes less valuable than what they've created, then good for them. Go do it, because that's where I want more entrepreneurs in the world. So I usually don't talk
I love
about
that. I love the way that you put that. I wish there were more business owners with that same sort of mindset, because there are companies that won't even allow their people to go and get a second job. Like, you can only work here, and I've seen that. So
yeah, that moonlighting. It doesn't work for everything, right? It can't work for, like, let's say services industry, like nursing or fire actually it could. But like, someone shows up to an hourly job in a store. While you're there, you got to work. You can't be like building your, but they shouldn't care when you leave there. It is the point.
Exactly.
As you were doing this, did you have, what's like the biggest aha moment you had? Let me take just a quick break to acknowledge one thing. I really want to thank my team at InstantlyRelevant.com for producing this show and all the content the guest gets and all the social media that's provided after the show as well. Without my team at InstantlyRelevant.com, this show wouldn't be where it is. It wouldn't be what it is. So I really thank them, and anybody who really needs help with social media, LinkedIn specifically, or your website and email, check out InstantlyRelevant.com and see if they can do the same for you.
So the biggest aha, once I really got into it and I was starting to be hired by other marketers, Because it was really the only skill that I felt like I had when I got into it was that I was technical, that I could learn technical things really quickly and build stuff out. So like I was thrown into a one shopping cart CRM at that time and had to completely figure it out. And a lot of times I was like, yeah, I know how to do that, because that was the only way I was going to learn. So I got a lot of on the job training during those first 10 years. And then realizing that how I wanted to niche it and, you know, realizing that I wanted to go after more people who were doing internet marketing. Because at that time, you know, if you remember back in the early 2000s, the sales pages, we didn't have a lot of drag and drop options. So you had to completely build that stuff using HTML and CSS. I was the girl that was getting hired for that because I could build it out and I was really meticulous and my code was really clean. So I think the biggest moment was just realizing, okay, these are the people that I can actually target and build my business around.
So to extrapolate that for, you know, I always look for the lessons for the entrepreneur. It is, and this could be a good or bad. You have to take something you're good at initially, that maybe you've come from school, corporate world, whatever else, something you've built on the side, and build your initial offering around it, because you'll have a capability, you'll have a differentiator, you have a little more pillars to build upon. If you don't have that, it's hard to become an entrepreneur. If you don't have, and your skill might be just identifying a good business deal, but you just don't use it. You have to find that core thing where you go, I know I can go do this on my own. And I want you to describe the moment, the first time someone gave you money for your idea.
Okay. So it was right around, so it's the end of 2005. It is right after Christmas, before New Year's. I had just finished building my website. I put myself up on Guru and I get an email within 24 hours from a gentleman named Roddy Ferguson, who placed 10th in the 2004 Olympics for jiu-jitsu. And he had turned his trainings into CDs, and we were building sales page after sales page, selling the different CDs for his course. And I just remember him calling me, and he was just really straightforward. He's like, yeah, I like what you have to say. I'm going to give you $1,000 a month. I want you to start tomorrow. And I'm thinking, tomorrow's New Year's Eve, like New Year's Day, because I'm thinking I'm going to go party tonight. So I went out and celebrated. Thankfully, I didn't have to work on New Year's Day. But that was it. Like, I was like I had something to like party about. Like, I was so excited. And that was the realization of like, oh my God, I can do this. Like, I'm going to make this happen. And I worked with him for 3 years. He referred several clients to me during that time. So the first 3 years of my business were really, really great.
That's interesting. I actually had heard that name. My kids were in jiu-jitsu at a younger age.
Roddy Ferguson?
Yeah. And which is interesting. So who knows? I may have seen your content. Should we start singing? It's a small world
after all. Okay.
Oh, you can sing. Good. Go ahead.
It's a small world after all.
See how she did that? Right. That's an entrepreneur right there for you. You know,
I'll sing on the spot for you.
Right. Just immediately. If you sing or not, just see if you do it. Honestly, it's just my energy. Thank you. And it's going to make the final cut because we don't edit.
Good.
The idea that, and I've had a lot of entrepreneurs explain this moment. And one guy was like, hey, when I got my first $14.99, freezing my butt off in like the outdoor market when I was 17, you know, whatever. The enjoyment of that relative to their first salary is not even comparable. Or versus if you're in your salary job, your W-2 job right now, and you start a side hustle, I can't describe how it feels when someone hands you like that $300. It's way less than you've ever made, but it feels so good that it's your idea.
You did it.
That's the crack cocaine of entrepreneurship right there. That's the first hit.
It's empowering. You feel so empowered so that you go and you do it again. And then you just keep doing it.
And this is where I coach people like, listen, if you're talking about becoming an entrepreneur, you're never going to become one. So stop. Just go do something. And do something in the form of a side hustle. So if you see the side hustle is a great place to start based on some skill you have, it's not going to be where you end up. It's just where you're starting. But that a little addiction to whatever that is that's what you'll be chasing. And then your brain as an entrepreneur takes over and goes, now if I can take that 300 and do it 1,000 times a day, now daddy's going to be really happy. And everybody else.
Very, very.
And it's not all about money, by the way. To be clear, as you know, you make less usually when you start.
Yeah, I definitely make a lot more now than I did when I started in 2005. But when I started in 2005, I started as a virtual assistant. You might know them as a VA. Mm-hmm. And I started off, asking for $25 an hour at that time. After 10 years, by the time I ended being a VA and I started my own full service digital marketing agency, I was no longer trading time for money, and I was making $3,000 a month per client. And the clients would typically stick around for anywhere from 6 months to a year. So I made a lot more money. And then I had a big fail. That's the other thing about being an entrepreneur. Sometimes things aren't going to work. Sometimes you're going to completely screw it up. You're going to hire too fast. You're going to hire the wrong person. And within 24 hours, you're going to lose your clients and you're going to lose your team. And that's what happened to me because I didn't have my shit straight.
Yeah. So that's we've all been through it. I don't know if they're failures or they're, it feels like
it was a growth opportunity for sure.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, so recently we lost a customer that was about $10K a month. It was one of our bigger customers. And we have a few of those to go. And the reason we lost it wasn't so much because we weren't performing. It was because they had grown to a size that our value proposition and how we kind of reported didn't meet their current need. And they wanted to say, they said, hey, for that, we might as well just bring someone kind of in-house and we're going to just, but if we had been positioned differently, I was like, oh man, we would have kept to retain that business potentially. And so we took that expensive lesson, if you will. And now we're doing reporting differently. We have better project management in place. We have things in place that would be like, there's no need to go do that. And you have to learn from it. And you could gripe, you could complain if you wanted to about it. But the truth is, if you don't go figure out why something like that happened and do the things to change it, you're just going to repeat it again.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a really big wake up call. I thought becoming an agency and bringing in a team and having a project manager was going to be the end all be all because it was what I was being trained in some of the partnerships I had, and not realizing that, hey, step back. This may not actually be right for you. It may be right for them, but it may not be right for you. So definitely backstep, made some major changes. And then that's how LinkedIn came to be.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question here. So, and just because we're in similar spaces. So I find I'd rather have, I like the customers that are bigger and they pay you more, but comes with that, it feels more like a job. And what I like sometimes are the ones that are smaller revenue amounts, but they follow our system and process that what we do and the teams can execute. So after I've helped sell the deal or that's been sold, it becomes a lot easier to manage. I find that a much happier place. And I don't know if you have the same feeling in the entrepreneur lessons is find a service or offering that it fits you. Because yes. I honestly don't want to have 10 jobs, so to speak, from customers that pay you a lot, which is great. But I'd rather have a whole bunch more that I can do the right value set for, and they don't, and I have a lifestyle. So how do you feel about that from your perspective as an entrepreneur?
I can give them more if we narrow down what the focus is. So by creating content and then separate from that, we're generating leads. And so we create a system, and the goal is they need to understand that this is a marketing system for their business. All right. So I do like the entrepreneur that maybe has been in business, definitely has been in business for a couple of years. So they have the entrepreneur mindset. So I like the smaller guy because they do pay more attention. Like when I work for larger organizations, they have this whole set it and forget it mindset. Mm-hmm. And that's just not how lead generation works. You have to nurture leads. Like just sending a message out thinking that someone's going to say, hey, I want to book a call with you. Like it doesn't work that way. It takes several touches before somebody will engage with you. So
It does. Yeah, often a lot of different channels too. So that's the other piece. And it's ones you don't ever know about. And also working with bigger companies with it is there's an attribution model that you can't specifically do on lead generation sometimes. You don't control websites and you don't really know. And they're looking at these things and they may buy through different channels. They may end up not, sometimes the attribution when you're specifically using like a LinkedIn and you don't own the full cycle of the company's website, landing pages, email, you get stuck in, and this is probably why customers leave. They don't see the ROI. It's hard sometimes to prove the ROI with it.
They're not seeing the bigger picture of it. Mm-hmm. All right. They think that someone who engages on their content when it's posted, they're looking at them going, that's not an ideal prospect. And I'm saying, stop looking at the people that are engaging with your content. These are people that are boosting your content so that more eyes get on it. 95% of LinkedIn are lurkers. All right. They're going to go to your profile. They're going to go to your website, and chances are they're never, ever going to send you a message. They're never going to engage with your content. But you know what? They've gone to your website and they're going to book a call. So as long as you make the other areas where they leave LinkedIn to go check you out accessible and easy for them to navigate, that's okay. But that's where I struggle sometimes with my clients, is trying to get them to see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
100%. I'll actually flip that script. Beyond the people just engaging on your content, if you're engaging on others, we've had this too, where we'll work on someone's post and like, why are we commenting on that post? Like this person, it's like, because a lot of the people looking at that post are your buyers, and and who cares if you
say it louder.
Right. I repeat. Your buyers are looking. So some of the strategies we do is like, let's go to your top competitor and comment on all their posts. They're like, no. I'm like, oh,
why
no.
Why would I do that? Like, So why would I do that? Why would I go to my competitor and comment on their post? Yeah. I mean, their niche may not be mine. All right. I do a lot. I have a big focus on female founders. And so I like to focus there. And it's not to say that I don't work with everybody. I will. If you come to me and you need my help, I'll work with you. But I actually have proactively blocked my competition from my LinkedIn feed, because that's not who I'm targeting.
I love giving advice. How do you do that?
How do I go through and I block them? So if I see somebody who within my feed and they actively say LinkedIn done for you, or LinkedIn this or LinkedIn that, I go and I check out their profile. I check out their content. And most of them out there are just helping people with content. They don't have a lead generation strategy. And so I click on the more button. And when you click on the more button on their profile, you can unfollow, you can remove connection, and then you can block. And when you block, there's 3 options to block. I'm only blocking so that I don't see them and they don't see me. I don't report, don't be nasty. You just don't need to see them. They don't need to see you. We're not in competition.
I just want you to know that she's blocked me and we're not even first connections because I'm in the same space. She doesn't want to see my stuff. But she's going to have to, because we're on this podcast together. So connection sent without a note. I'm sending it without a note. That's how rude I'm going to be. True. I don't know if she's blocked or not, but I want to cry about it later. I therapy on Tuesdays, so that should be a good topic. Welcome back to the Never Been Promoted podcast. We're here crying in the corner because my guest has blocked me because I am competitive to her. And I'm just kidding. All right. What's one of the biggest regrets?
You are.
I love giving advice, in the form of a non-shameless plug, but people can come to you, they can work with you to, for LinkedIn and stuff. But just pure advice. Give somebody the one piece of advice that anybody who's on LinkedIn, who, for the most part, unless they're in the top 1% of what they know what they're doing, what is it you would give them as something to do as they're building their business?
The first thing would be is to optimize your LinkedIn profile. And that's kind of a given. Everybody, for the most part, I see a lot of people preach that, they know that. But what I say differently than other people, because other people say brag, brag, brag. I say, you're not looking for a job. You're looking for clients, which means your profile, both your personal and your company page, need to be a representation of your website. All right. Or a sales page. The only difference is don't use your logo on your personal page. People want to see your face. Don't have any people in it. It should just be you. But But yeah, make your profile an extension of your website. The next thing, turn on creator mode.
Yeah.
All right. Creator mode is how your content is actually going to get seen. And creator mode is what allows LinkedIn to serve it to the rest of your connections. Along with when you open creator mode and you have it on your site or on your LinkedIn profile, you then get access to things like newsletters, to the follow button, which you could put in your signature, to audio events, which is the equivalent of Clubhouse back in the day. And then you have live events, which you could actually, on your live events, I could take this podcast after it's recorded, put it into a live event and invite people to it. And I'm not even live. It just will show the live event and I can engage with the people who are actually engaging in the comments while it's going on.
Repurposing content sounds pretty good to me.
Repurpose content.
That's right. That's great advice too. And you know, I'm an optimized profile, and I always ask the question, to what? And the optimization of a profile should be specific around serving somebody. And we take a more altruistic approach to it, for sure. But the advice you have of specifically use brand colors. Don't use your logo. Use your personal image, because it is a personal network.
Yes.
And so I think that's fantastic advice. It's incredibly parallel to what I would give, even though you'd block me on LinkedIn if I did give that advice in my content. So I'm going to have to change. Actually, my content as a marketer for Instantly Relevant, right, it's not this. It's actually these podcasts. And so,
yeah.
Which is, but here for the entrepreneur listening, I'll do about 200 sales calls a month from our system for LinkedIn, right? But my content is 100% nothing to do with it. It is about entrepreneurship. It's about never been promoted. It's about you. It's about you. It's about my guests. And so the point being is, if you're talking brag, you are on the wrong path. You may get lucky for the desperate person who stumbles upon it, but they will not identify with you long term.
Exactly. Well, and my big thing that I tell my clients is, because you are actively connecting with your ideal prospect, all right, the moment that they see that invitation from you, the first thing they're going to do is look at your profile. If they don't know who you are and what you do within the first 3 seconds, maybe the first 2 seconds, they're not going to do business with you and they're going to move on. And they're also not going to accept your connection request.
Unless they want to sell you something. I will extend your advice to this, and you talk about a little bit the connection. You take it to an extreme of, I don't want to see a competition, and I don't want them to see mine. I think that's very sound advice, actually, because it really helps narrow. You're not chasing a vanity metric. You're chasing an effect or a relevance metric of, I want the right people to see my stuff. And if the marketers are the only ones looking at it, then it never gets to the actual.
It doesn't help me.
Exactly. The other thing I would extend to is, don't interact with any profiles that you really don't want to work with. And so if you're clicking on people's profiles to recommend and you already know it's not there, outside of saying remove, block all those people from China that are the L'Oreal experts or CEOs, or I'm not sure how, maybe it's just the guys' profiles that get these. Anyway, they have 0 followers, all these avatars. Just don't interact with them unless you're going to remove them or say less connections like this, because you will. That's all you'll see if you do it that way.
Yeah.
You and I could go on those for hours. We'll have to do a separate podcast.
Well, and two of the things that I tell people are, don't accept every connection request that you get. Think of your LinkedIn as like a CRM. Mm-hmm. All right. And great currently point. I've got a campaign right now, and this is a campaign I started yesterday, and it was an idea I got from somebody else. She's not a LinkedIn expert, but she uses LinkedIn to do business. And she sends an email to her first connection saying, should we stay connected?
Yep.
Because if you don't enjoy my stuff, and so I was like, this is brilliant. So I started that last night. So I've got 2 campaigns, one to generate leads and one to remove connections that just aren't, that aren't engaged in the party.
And I'm not one who promotes automation on your account. The one that I may run occasionally or may not is I remove 1,000 connections every month. So I have 35,000 connections. I stay right around that because I remove connections from countries I don't really need to interact with and people I don't know. Yeah. And sometimes those are less because I've gotten all the non-US. Ours is usually, UK-ish, Australia, US, so English speaking Canada. So those are out. And then also people who haven't interacted with in 90 days. If I haven't interacted, they haven't looked at my profile or my content, I get rid of them. And I don't mean it mean. I just do it because we keep our things around relevance. I think you'd probably agree that weighs more. So that's the takeaway, guys. People are, all right, enough, guys. We understand you're LinkedIn expert. Shut up. We get it. Well, that's the guest, okay? And you will listen to her if you stay on. It's just be relevant. Let's shift gears. Let's go to the future.
Okay.
And in this segment, I'd like to really talk about what you're doing. You know, you were at time zero when you started a few years ago. You're at time zero now for the future. What are you doing now to better prepare you as an entrepreneur in the future?
Adding more ways to generate income. So having multiple channels. So I turned my service into a course that includes coaching for up to a year to basically that way, if LinkedIn makes changes, which they will, because we all know they do, and you have to learn how to pivot with that. So I want to be able to support the people that sign up for my course and actually learn how to build out the system that I've created. I want to be able to support them through those changes.
That's very smart. Yeah. And as also as a marketer, I have to guess, you do realize it's I don't call it a rat race, but at some point the value is better if you can teach people to do it than do it for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can help more people by teaching them how to do it and do it properly, because a huge piece of that is that outreach message. Like if you send them a message and it's 5 paragraphs long and you're telling them your life story,
6 links,
which you should not do because nobody cares. So that's my big thing is I want to teach people how to properly write, engaging, how do you start a conversation with somebody? I don't know. I ask them a question. That seems pretty simple.
And something that's not rhetorical, like stop, right? I will tell you that my best, I've tried everything available out in the market in the first couple of years of building our company to see what works, what doesn't. And when we do this, either through just me sending messages or I've done it through automation in the past, the one that worked at an incredibly good level, all it said was, ooh, with like 4 O's, ... lowercase. Tell me more about company name. And at that, I got people who connected like crazy over that. And then I jumped in when they replied. Something as simple as that was awesome. It really was. It was anyway. So be simple, be real, has some personality. Because truth is, if you don't share your personality quickly, when you interact with somebody, they're not going to probably work with you anyway. So if you can just go show it already in an email or an initial message, at least someone's coming in and kind of aligned to your blood, if you will. Saves a spot.
Absolutely.
This is the part. This is a shameless plug part. You get 30 seconds right now. I don't care how long you take, actually. Who should contact you and how? So
first, I do want to acknowledge my dog, Chico, who has managed to make an appearance, or not an appearance, but a sound in every podcast I've ever done.
Yeah, it's how it works.
That is him in the background. That's Chico. Anyway, my shameless plug. If you want help with your LinkedIn, if you want to stand out, if you don't want to work with Thomas and you want to work with me.
She's blocked me, so you won't find me.
Come find me. I'm at linkherin.com. I'm sure Thomas is great to work with, but you want to work with me. Anyway, but if you want some help with your LinkedIn, if you want to be able to generate leads, and you really want to stand out and you want to do it the right way without pissing people off, reach out to me, Shannon at linkherin. You can find me on LinkedIn at Shannon T. Kuykendall.
That was actually a pretty good shameless plug. I like it. But we do it slightly differently. So, and I actually am one who believes, but we work with a lot of industries at Instantly Relevant, right? But I work a lot with agencies to help them take our system and go implement it. And the reason is because there's so much opportunity. And I think if less people do automation, spammy, API driven stuff, the platform itself, LinkedIn, will benefit and everyone in it. And so if I can do my part to get that automation crap and brand wrecking spam out of there, I'm happy to help train every competitor on the planet because it's needed. There's 722 million people on LinkedIn. There's plenty of space. So, I appreciate that. Let's do a little fast pitch, a little, I don't know if you're a softball fan, but I'm not. So let's call it fast pitch.
Okay.
What's a must read business book for an entrepreneur?
Profit First. Mike Michalowicz, game changer. Someone turned it on to me during the pandemic, and it completely changed the financial situation I was in during the pandemic. So highly, highly recommended. If you are on the roller coaster of feast or famine, read this book. It will change everything.
What do you think is a key takeaway in that does it? Like, in just like, what was the aha moment for you in that one?
Just taking a little bit of money and putting it aside. That was one, start with 1%, 2%. I'm at a 10%. I pull 10% and I put it away. Then the other one was the eye opener was when we make money, we tend to buy a bunch of stuff for our business that we really don't need. All right. Like when you are budgeting and you're running low on money, you make do with the groceries you have. So why would you not do that when you have lots of money? Make do with what you have. You've got a system in place that's obviously working. You don't need the extra stuff.
Interesting. I'll challenge you a bit. At the end of this last year, we had a really good year. We 130% more revenue. We had way more profitability. I made some good investment bets, and I paid for it all last year. And I looked at it like, hey, I could have taken that money, swiped it across. I gave some to the additional to the teams and other people and there. But I think look at it not more like, oh, I'm going to go buy this extra computer or whatever it is. But if you go make an investment into advertising, and maybe it's a little bit of a risk or a stretch to try, I'm actually okay with that as a way to avoid paying tax on it because you're getting you're 21% on that money. Go invest it, but don't buy things that won't produce more revenue, as I think you're saying. So
and that is something that I do. That 10% so it automatically comes out and goes right into an investment fund. And it's my profit fund. And that was the other thing they say, like every quarter, use that money to celebrate and do something with. I actually I'm thinking long term. So it's going to stay in the investment. But
buy Bitcoin is what you're saying.
I got about $100 on it. I'm just, I'm hodling. We'll see. I played in the Bitcoin realm and it was fun, but it's too volatile.
It's last year at the end of the year, I sold mine. And I look at it now, I'm like, wish I would have kept it. So yeah. I was like, because it had gone up like 25%. I was like, I leveraged that capital into the business. Actually, to keep it, honestly, a year ago we were so cash flow constrained that to keep it afloat. So I was like, I had to find cash wherever I could and to do that. What's a technology that you're leveraging that's really like you finding? Even if it's just new, like what are you using out there that's like, oh my gosh, I found this. This is really helpful.
So we were talking about it earlier, Substack.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I did a podcast yesterday with a gal, Rachel Rose, and she was telling me about Substack. And I said, all right, I'll go check it out. And I had a list of emails, about 4,200 of them. I was able to upload them to Substack. Substack sent me a message yesterday saying, great, you've got 4,200 emails, go write your first post. So I wrote a post and it went out to all 4,200 people and I got replies. This is great content. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Hey, let's connect. Let's schedule a call. That just all right. I was just messing around. So I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find a way to really because you can monetize it. All right. So you can make your content a subscription service if you want. I have mine connected. I haven't done that yet, but yeah, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do to Substack what I did to LinkedIn. I'm going to get into the nooks and crevices.
I love it. And it's great advice. And you find these technologies. Now, this is actually something where I would tell people, flag shiny objects, try them, trials. But when you sign up for a trial, actually use it. And if you find value in something, then create a system to leverage it. So what I find is when I have a bunch of tech every month, every quarter, I look at it and go, what am I paying for? And are we using it? And I find that I save thousands a year by avoiding that. But when I do find something I want, let's say like high level, I pay for the year in advance and save my 20% because it allows me to save money, capital money right away. But keep in mind, it's going to hit your card next year in the full amount again. So make sure you're getting value of it because that is my October, November. I'm like, ouch! It's like an assault on the credit card. I'm like, oh, we need capital this month.
Yes.
So just be aware of that. Last question. And this is probably the most important one. And if you answer it wrong, I have to hang up.
Okay.
Have you ever
I'm
been
ready.
promoted?
No.
Winner, winner.
Chicken dinner.
Chick-fil-A dinner, because not any chicken. Chick-fil-A is where it's at. And if they sponsor this show, I'd be surprised. But also, I'm in Atlanta, and they should, because Chick-fil-A is delicious, especially the nuggets. They don't really bend their menu. There'll be 400 people in line, and you'll get in line. That's why I like Chick-fil-A. I do not fear their lines. Like, it'll go fast. If you saw that same line at Walmart, you literally push your cart full of whatever it was, and you leave it. Thank you very much for listening today. Shannon, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Thomas. This was a lot of fun. You are a kick. I really enjoyed this. So
I appreciate that.
I hope I provided some value, not just the regular. I repeat and rinse and repeat. So
I'm going to claim this, because if you're listening at this point, not only did you get your 10 dad points that I talked about earlier, you can use them any way you like. But this has been one of the best podcasts we've had. Now, this is only the second one we've ever filmed, but it doesn't matter. I'm just not kidding. This is great. Thank you, Shannon. Great insights. Anyone who's made it to this point, I truly appreciate you. And I appreciate any entrepreneur that comes on and shares their story and learn something from this. If you get just one nugget out of any conversation, it's sometimes enough to really evolve or pivot your thinking or your business to just be that much a little better, that allows your life to just improve. And the whole point of the podcast is entrepreneurs helping other entrepreneurs to just be better at entrepreneurship and life. So thank you, Shannon, for showing up today. I love it when guests show up. It's fantastic. It makes the podcast go so much smoother. And thank you for listening. Everyone, until next time, on Never Been Promoted podcast, go out there and unleash your entrepreneur.
Thanks for listening to Never Been Promoted with Thomas Helfrich. Make sure to check the show notes for our guest contact information and any relevant links. Connect with Thomas personally at neverbeenpromoted.com.
Thanks again to InstantlyRelevant.com for producing the show, all the social media, all the content, posts, articles, everything. Could not do it without you. InstantlyRelevant.com. Check it out. They're awesome. Once again, InstantlyRelevant.com.